raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avenger.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
Rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Must have dreamed 1,000 dreams, been haunted by a million screams, but I can hear the marching feet moving into the street. Now did you read the news today? They say the danger's gone away, but I can see the fire still alive, burning into the night. There's too many men, too many people making too many problems, and not much love to go around. Can't you see this is the land of confusion? But this is the world we live in, and these are the hands we give on. Use them and let's start trying to make it a place worth living in. Superman, where are you now? When everything's gone wrong somehow. The men of steel, the men of power are losing control by the hour. This is the time, this is the place where we look for the future, and not much love to go around. Can't you see this is the land of confusion? But this is the world we live in, and these are the hands we give on. Use them and let's start trying to make it a place worth fighting for. Coming home tonight, my generation will put it right. We're not just making promises that we know we'll never keep. This is the time, this is the place where we look for the future, but there's not much love going round. Can't you see this is the land of confusion? But This is the world we live in, and these are the hands we give out. Use them and let's start trying to make it a place worth living in. This is the world we live in, and these are the names we give out. Stand up and let's start showing just where our lives are going to.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Wherever you are in the world, I hope everybody is doing well out there. Another song started playing immediately after, and I'm like, ah! But that was The Land of Confusion, originally a Genesis song. They're covered by a great acoustic artist right there, Danny Hamilton. I like the version. Good job, Danny, on that. You can find him at Danny Hamilton, all one word, on YouTube. Just search out Land of Confusion by Genesis, acoustic cover, Danny Hamilton, and you shall find it. And why am I playing songs like that tonight? Land of Confusion, because you know what? This world's confusing, isn't it? It's interesting looking at all of this. Now, if you listen to the show last night, we played a clip about the Alice in Wonderland technique and then Operation Snow White to kind of start the show. Then we had a little intermission, and then I talked about that for the latter half of the show. After I got off the show last night, I constructed an X-Post. I'm going to read you this X-Post because I want you to understand that this is really happening right now in the world. And when I begin to look at this in the context of the left, and I say the left just because that's the chosen political movement that this is being propagated through. It is left and right, and there's probably active sleeper cells on the left and the right. We're starting to see some of those influencers rise up, right? Turning on General Flynn, all this stuff. But what I want you to understand is that it almost feels like there's not dozens of these, hundreds of these, thousands, but potentially even millions of them. And I want you to understand how easy it would be to create a private army simply through manipulation. Now, yesterday we talked about the Alice in Wonderland PSYOP, the technique utilized. The CIA's Alice in Wonderland technique was originally an interrogation method developed by Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard, known as the confusion technique. He called it later on the Alice in Wonderland technique, and then it was used in the original MK Ultra programs and interrogation techniques by the Central Intelligence Agency. The objective? Overwhelm a subject with contradictions, chaos, and fear until reality itself collapses. In that confusion, the brain desperately grabs onto the first coherent narrative it's offered. That narrative then becomes the new truth. Now, by the way, I want to draw context to this. It doesn't only have to be chaos and fear. The confusion can be mixed in with really any type of incredibly strong emotion, love and desire, and all of these things work just the same. Now, imagine this being applied to billions of people through their cell phones. How social media runs this technique? Algorithmic chaos. Your feed is flooded with conflicting information, outrage headlines, and contradictory narratives. Think about this. News story breaks and you go to X, and what do you see? 37 different influencers from all different political spectrums talking about the same thing through a different lens and perspective. There's your algorithmic chaos. The goal isn't clarity, it's confusion. And you're sought there looking to find the truth. Who's got the latest and the greatest? Who is the shooter? Is he trans? Is he Muslim? What's going on here? And I want to find it. So you search and you search and you search. This disorientation makes people easier to program. Then you add in behavioral analytics. Every click, every scroll, every pause is logged. AI models know exactly what content destabilizes you personally. The feed becomes a precision weapon, delivering chaos until you're off balance. Narrative injection. After the noise, a clean story, meme, or ideology is pushed. It feels like relief, so the brain rewires around it. Repetition and peer reinforcement lock it in, from chaos to weaponization. Now, I'm going to draw some context here. Remember when Donald Trump first ran for president in 2016, and what would he do? He started attacking the fake news. This is a man with little to no dirt on him. And what do? They made up propaganda against him. They perpetuated false documents out there that they created, fake compromise. And they fortified it with influencers who had trust base within their audience, and then they propagated it out like it was crackers at mass. Now, then what do? Now, then they resort to some type, after you get people captured in that dramification of the content. Oh, Donald Trump's corrupt, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump and Russia. People become confused because they're scared, they're in fear. They're seeing that this man's going to be coming into the White House, and now they're looking for something to latch onto. And then what do you propagate out? That's when they propagate LGBTQ, BLM. That's when they propagate out Antifa. That's when they give them some people that have the same mindset as them, that are thinking the same way, a community, a group, an organization, something to reinforce that confusion and fear, but bring about a remedy for it. This isn't theoretical, people. It's already happened. Do you remember the Buffalo shooter and the Uvalde shooter? This was just a few weeks apart. Did you know they were both in the same Discord chat group? And that Discord chat group was operated by a former counterintelligence agent at the FBI? That was mainstream media. And they removed the story very fast, and you never heard anything about it. Now think about this for a second. Young men and women destabilized by chaotic social feeds and targeted narratives. They're funneled into private groups where reinforcement takes over. Inside those echo chambers, identities and behaviors are molded. Some radicalized, others weaponized. This is MK Ultra 2.0, except LSD isn't in the lab. It's TikTok, Discord, YouTube, and algorithmic nudging. Building digital sleeper armies. Now scale this up. Multiply private groups across platforms. Use behavioral data to select the most vulnerable minds. Groom them with community reinforcement and controlled narratives. Insert subtle command structures, memes, symbols, phrases that act as activation triggers. You've now got the blueprint for a radicalized sleeper army built in plain sight. Individuals believe they are acting on their own convictions, but in reality, they're following a narrative carefully injected into their psyches. With the right command, the digital army can be nudged into the streets, mobilized online, and weaponized towards any agenda. The bigger picture, social feeds are no longer passive entertainment. They are psychological battlefields. The Alice in Wonderland technique plus real-time behavioral analytics plus private group funneling equals a system that can create, control, and deploy programmable people without them ever realizing it. It's not a conspiracy. It is a digital social engineering project that's been going on for decades, and it's happening right now. So when we start to talk about shooters and school shooters targeting children or nightclubs or whatever this might be, you start to see the bigger picture here. Now, this might not make sense now, but when we start to understand why Donald Trump is deploying 20,000 troops to the southern border, U.S. Navy warships to Venezuela and southern Mexico, why we have the National Guard potentially going to be deployed even tomorrow to Chicago and Washington, D.C., California, and other various different sanctuary cities, we begin to understand. See, if we start to look at the idea of the firestorm, the army that comes together to fight for the Democrats when the arrests occur. Well, if you've neutralized the Chinese, if you've neutralized the gangs and the cartels, if you've neutralized all of the sleeper cells from Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, and the Taliban, who do you have left? Your MK Ultra army. And I think that that's what we are about to see actually occur next. Now, we're getting into the preparation of this. We're going to talk a little bit more about this here in just a little while. I want to get through some news, but the news really pertains directly to all of this. Before leaving office, the Democrats sent $260 million to George Soros. George Soros funds Democrat campaigns in exchange for them to launder American taxpayer money to his CEOs. Oh, yeah. Really did happen. You remember the $3.1 billion that Stacey Abrams received?
Trump claims Hungarian-American billionaire George Soros is responsible for interfering in the political landscape of many countries. The account claims that Soros used a hefty $260 million from U.S. aid to spread chaos, change governments, and pursue personal gain in countries such as India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Ukraine. Now, this comes as the Trump administration continues to freeze U.S. aid's budget, describing its initiatives as misaligned with American interests and accusing them of destabilizing global peace.
Now, interesting enough is he didn't stop with foreign countries. He utilized various different dark money organizations like Arabella Advisors, which Bill Gates was associated with, to funnel that same type of money from USAID through various different NGOs, NPOs, so forth, into shell companies, and then through shell companies and the ancillary private companies, and then obviously to fund USAID or to fund Act Blue, to fund political campaigns, to rig elections wholeheartedly. We went over this all in full. The connectivity directly to Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, the DNC, George Soros' Open Society Foundations, the theft of the 2020 election. It's all there. Now, this is interesting because now we get the motivation of the PSYOP. You want to talk about psychological warfare? Here it is. You're going to love this video. Two familiar faces from the blast from the past. Here you go.
Hey, everybody. It's Barack, and I am here with my good friend, Attorney General Eric Holder, because we're facing an existential...
By the way, he's former Attorney General Eric Holder. But Obama makes sure that he doesn't say former. Make sure that he utilizes the authoritarian narrative. Attorney General Eric Holder.
Existential threat to our democracy.
Right there. Listen to it.
An existential threat to our democracy, and we need your help.
Right now, in states across the country, like Texas and Florida, these extreme conservative politicians are announcing and acting on plans to slice and dice House districts with the goal of preserving their own power while diluting the voting power of communities of color.
They're doing the same thing in Ohio, trying to give one-party control over almost 90% of congressional seats.
Rather than facing their voters at the polls next year, they're trying to silence them instead.
Eric and I started the NDRC to win fights like this. So, if you want your voice to be heard...
Okay. I want you to notice a few things about this video. Number one, the tone of their voices and the rhythmic flow of their voices. If you go back to the beginning and you listen to Eric Holder, listen to his voice rhythm.
We're facing an existential threat to our democracy, and we need your help.
Right now, in states across the country, like Texas and Florida, these extreme conservative politicians are announcing and acting on plans to slice and dice House districts with the goal of preserving their own power while diluting the voting power of communities of color.
They're doing the same.
Oh my God, perfect. Neuro-linguistic programming, people. Nailed it. Almost like it was constructed to be exactly like that. If you listen to the tone of his voice and the flow of the rhythm of how he speaks, it actually confuses the hell out of your mind. It's hard to follow along because of the pulsed breaks that he's doing with the words. He's breaking up sentences into smaller mini segments, and it's confusing your mind. This is what they do. It's an existential threat. It comes right after existential threats, where it induces fear and then brings about confusion. MK Ultra techniques. In other words, what are they doing? They are getting ready to orchestrate their army. They are getting ready to activate false flags. I'm telling you, we've seen a lot of these over the last few weeks. The false calls at colleges and universities of active shooters, which would be not a coincidence if it was like one university had like 3 or 4 of them, but it's universities all over the country that are having these. What's going on here? What are the conversations that are being had in the universities? What is the social atmosphere like on these universities to where kids are so paranoid, so scared and in fear that they see a guy carrying an umbrella and they call the police? I think it's kind of preparation. The boy who called wolf. Say, hey, there's an active shooter, there's an active shooter, there's an active shooter, and there's an active shooter, and then there really is one. And what that does is all of those colleges and universities now have that implementation of fear refortified, reinforced when it actually does happen. And I think that we're probably going to see a lot of more false flag events come about in the course of the next few days and weeks. Jeff Sessions was in Washington, D.C. today. Jeff Sessions has not posted on X or Facebook or anywhere since February of 2021. He was subpoenaed by Congress to testify in the Epstein file investigations. I'm curious to what Jeff Sessions talked about and discussed in a closed-door meeting with Congress, because I'm pretty sure he's probably the only one that was subpoenaed over this that is actually talking. And I'm pretty sure what he told them was probably something very interesting. Gavin Newsom has been on a wide barrage attack on Donald Trump. But the question is, who is Gavin Newsom? Well, they are California elite families, people. That's who Gavin Newsom is. 4 families, 3 generations. Pat Brown, John Pelosi, William Newsom. Approves the Squaw Valley concessions for Newsom and Pelosi, money to the Brown campaign. Jerry Brown was governor of California, Nancy and Paul, obviously Nancy a congresswoman. And then we have William Newsom has a son by the name of Gordon, and Gordon has Gavin. But Gavin just happens to be directly related to Nancy. How? Paul's brother Ron is married to Barbara, Gordon's brother. The Brown, the Pelosi, and the Newsoms and the Gettys family are all interrelated and interconnected, and they own all of Napa Valley, the majority of California. So you wonder what they have at stake here with Donald Trump and what he's doing. You got to understand that California is the largest state in the nation. They bring in hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue each year on imports and exports. It's the largest economy in the United States of America single-handedly by state per capita, as well as its economy is larger than I think about 54 other countries' total economies. That's huge. Now, why does that matter? Because what we're dealing with are international criminal cartels. We're dealing with a global crime syndicate, people. And this global crime syndicate, which has been around for a very long time on this planet, has strategically placed their people all over the world, bred into various dynastical families. They've taken their people and put them into the heart of politics, of business, and within all of the great NGOs and think tanks and all of the other different types of organizations that operate around government and policy and various different directives. In other words, what we see in the global elite is nothing more than one large family that is a criminal organization that ensures that they never get caught. They steal the money directly away from the people through taxes and through interest and through the debt credit system. And then on top of all of that, they are running guns and drugs and producing terrorism around the world to ensure that their businesses succeed in this world. At the same time, centralizing all power and authority through the various different governments that they control. Pretty damn good gig until the gig is up. Now the gig is up, and now it's a time of reckoning. And people like Gavin Newsom are being very, very outspoken. Remember, they who scream the loudest, people like Gavin Newsom, understand that he is going to be criminally indicted when all of this comes about. How do we know? Well, 2 weeks ago, Stephen Miller, senior advisor to Donald Trump, came out and said that Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, and Gavin Newsom are guilty of crimes against humanity and child sex trafficking. Well, why would he say that? Because if he said that and it wasn't true, that's libel, that's defamation. Unless Stephen Miller knows something. Stephen Miller knows something that the governments in Arizona, California, New Mexico, Texas, and states like that are intertwined with the criminal cartels in Mexico. That they changed laws and policies in order to allow the cartels to have free reign in the context of drug trafficking and human trafficking. That they accepted massive amounts of illegal immigrants, specifically children, and threw them into their state CPS programs, of which the state CPS programs then put them with unvetted adoption families. Not adoption families, foster families. Those foster families then worked for the cartels. And when the state representative would go check on those children, the children were not there. They were told that they ran away. And sure enough, the children weren't there, and they'd log it as ran away, and that's all the government intervention would have on that. In other words, people like Gavin Newsom have allowed the system to degrade to the point to where corruption can take place, illegality can take place, that human trafficking operations can run smoothly without state intervention. Now, I don't know if that's guilty by association, but when Stephen Miller says it, I think that it's guilty by more than that. I think that what we're going to find is that these people have large tie-ins directly to all of this. And that the truth is much, much darker than you can ever imagine. Listen to a Roseanne many years ago with Tucker Carlson talk about this.
You know they eat babies. That is not bullshit. It's true.
So it's not just the dogs and the cats, not just the pets.
It's not just the dogs and the cats. They're full-on vampires. And everybody still thinks I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. They're full-on vampires. They love the taste of human flesh and they drink human blood. They do, Tucker. Stop staring at me like that.
You're freaking me out, man. Because you spent your life in the entertainment business, so I think you have some authority on this.
So many kids that I was in mental institutions with over the years, they are all from those cults. And they've covered it all up. They covered it all up. And, you know, I just pray to God. I'm just going to pray to God that he opens everybody's eyes in this country. By the time we go in to vote for Trump, that he will open up everybody's eyes and they will stop pretending to be asleep. You know what they say, you can't wake people up that are pretending to be asleep, but I pray to God, please wake up even those who are pretending to be asleep with the irrefutable truth of what the worst people on this planet are really up to. They are really up to that. They're doing it. There are so many victims. There are so many victims. There are so many children victims that are now adults. The epidemic in America is child sexual abuse, and I just want people to see it. I want people to open up their eyes and see how prevalent and horrible it is. 1 of 3 girls, 1 of 4 boys in this country today. It's just horrible, and you just can't lie it away anymore. It's going to get more and more apparent, and you got to choose your side.
That's Roseanne talking about that. Interesting enough.
You know they eat babies.
Roseanne tried to tell us, but who posted this now? This video is a bit dated, but remains a very powerful moment and a message for us all. If you didn't believe in or understand how intercessors work, watch my friend, the Real Roseanne Barr, speak. She is speaking on behalf of a higher power in the diatribe of love for the human spirit. We are blessed that real Donald Trump won this past election. I know there's a lot of work to do, but God does work in mysterious ways. This is among them. Time for us all to stand up once again and do our part as American citizens. He just reposted a video that he watched saying that they eat human flesh. They're vampires. They eat babies and children. And when she's talking about, she's not just talking about Hollywood people. She's talking about Gavin Newsom, Nancy Pelosi. She's talking about these elite dynastical bloodlines. She's talking about the ones who work for Satan. Any way you want to look at it. The ones that work for Satan. And they'll tell you that's who they work for. Now, when we start to understand that this is a cult, it's very dark, it's very evil, and it's very large. How do you go about eradicating that cult? Well, isn't that what Donald Trump has done and started to do? But this is why I think we're about to have a few months of chaos. Not the chaos like we thought with the firestorm, but organized chaos. The organized chaos when arrests begin to start happening. That all of these crimes are going to come to the surface, that we're going to have drip, drip, flood. And I think the drip, drip, flood time frame is coming right now. It's announced today that Donald Trump is going to address the UN General Assembly on September 23rd. There was only one September 23rd post that I could actually pick up that made any sense towards what he would talk about. Crimes against humanity. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. At the end of the day, this is about saving God's children. At the end of the day, we have to understand that these people are pure, sick, evil. Here's a rabbit hole for you. The most recent shooter in Minneapolis attended a Catholic school. He wrote a really interesting manifesto. In the last part of the manifesto, he talked to P, which we assume is his sister. And he said, please forgive mom. And he goes on. But when you start to look out to that, or you look into that, it's as if the sister has disowned the mother about something. Well, we know the mother was fired from her job at the Catholic school, that her mother forced her son actually to transition, was happier than daylight that he transitioned. But then we find out from the shooter himself that he just said recently, where is it? He says, Minneapolis school shooter Robin Westman confessed he was tired of being trans and says, I wished I never brainwashed myself. In his manifesto. And we find out that it's potentially even his mother who pushed this onto him. But what if it was a little bit different? I mean, he went to a Catholic school. What if the Catholic school itself was involved? What if the intelligence agencies recruit directly from various different private schools in the world? Now, interesting enough about Mr. Westman there, the shooter, is his father was directly associated with the CIA, the NGA, and he's a software developer for the U.S. federal government, working on classified top secret projects. Why does that always seem to be ringing true? Do you remember the Aurora shooter? The Aurora shooter, his father just happened to be an engineer, high-level engineer that worked for the government, for DARPA and the Air Force. The Aurora shooter himself was actually a child prodigy genius. And then it comes to the Q posts. Did they have a therapist? Now, I don't know if this one had a therapist or not, but we have to start understanding that there's more of a connection here to these cult circles than we're led on to believe. That this shooter had written all over his gun various different symbols and so forth. What does that remind us of? Reminds us directly of the cult itself. You know, the 14 fish John Podesta, the New Zealand shooter's gun. Some would say that this person is mentally ill. Some would say that they're possessed by demons. I would say that this shooter was a direct victim, a targeted victim of MK Ultra mind control, of forced synthetic social engineering. And that once they got to a certain point of intense vulnerability, they were triggered into what they did just the other day. And I guarantee you there's more of them out there in the world. And they don't even know that they're being influenced by a cult. They don't even know that they're a part of a cult. And listen, I believe that people's lifestyles are completely up to those people. I don't judge them based upon it. But LGBTQ, in my opinion, in my strong opinion, is a cult. Absolutely ran like it. And when we start looking at the interplay of these cults and how they operate, then we understand that who are they recruiting? They're recruiting the weak, they're vulnerable, the ones that are in continuous states of fear. How easy does it become to manipulate those people once they are entrenched within the circles of safety and security? It becomes incredibly easy. And now when we start to look at the immense amount of American people that are now members of this cult, we can understand that there's an army that is under the influence of mind control, that is waiting, ready, and activated, just waiting for orders. And I think that those orders are going to come pretty damn fast. Just my thoughts on it. All right. Man, time flies when you do these shows, I'll tell you. I want to give a thank out. My Doe Eyes, appreciate Josh so much. How about a $5 challenge on Rumble? Oh, thank you so much, My Doe Eyes. Appreciate that. And then we have $2, Daytar17. Where we go, one, we go all vampire, Satanist, death, rattle coming. Absolutely. Thank you, Daytar17. And appreciate y'all guys for the Rumble rants coming in. Now, something interesting happened today. You know, on DEFCON 0 and last week, I talked about the Mexican senator who came forth talking about the narco politicians in Mexico. Today, senators in Mexico engaged in a fistfight after a heated debate over U.S. military intervention against drug cartels. What are we beginning to see? We're seeing battle lines being drawn within the Mexican political center of these narco politicians versus the ones that want to actually save their country. What I think is going to happen over the course of the next month to 2 months is that we are going to engage in some type of warfare with Venezuela, various parts of Central America, and Mexico, engaging cartels. It's my educated, wacky mind perspective. I think it's going to happen, and I think it's going to happen relatively fast. I think within the next week to 2 weeks, we're going to see this become a reality. At the same time that happens, because you got to keep those cartels busy, especially when you're in the process of arrest, you got to ensure that sleeper cells don't rise up within cities, especially large cities. Donald Trump today said that Governor Pritzker has had 6 murders in Chicago this weekend. 20 people were shot, but he doesn't want to ask me for help. Can this be possible? The people are desperate for me to stop the crime, something the Democrats aren't capable of doing. Stay tuned, President DJT. Now, he says stay tuned, and he posts this at 10:27 a.m. Now, that's interesting. 10:27 on the cue boards is protests will be up all night, pray, watch the news tomorrow. As in, stay tuned, watch the news tomorrow. I'm curious if tomorrow Donald Trump is going to make the move to deploy the National Guard to Chicago. Be interesting if he does. Wired has exposed the dark money group paying Democrat influencers $8,000 a month to make videos. Now, this is hand in hand what I was talking about last night. Hold on. What the fuck? The video just started playing. It wouldn't stop, of course. I'm going to put a video up here. But understand, this is what I'm talking about. The echo chambers are bought and paid for. People are aligning up to take the money to propagate the narrative.
Left-leaning content creators on this app have been fucking lying to you. This is the most important TikTok I'm ever going to make, and it very well might be my last. I am shaking. I can no longer afford to do this because of these creators, but also because I'm not even so sure that most of this country is worth saving at this point. And a lot of you should know what that means considering what I put into this. So let's get into Aaron Parnas, Susan Lambert. Don't worry, I'm going to fucking get to all of you. According to a new article by Wired, they've all been accepting $8,000 a month and not disclosing it to you from a dark money group that paid Chorus to do this. Unlike every single one of those fucks, I told you guys that I was approached with a similar deal, and I said that that would not hold true to who I am as a person, and I want to have a brand that sells itself. I want to break stories myself. I want to do investigative journalism myself, and that a lack of diversity on this app would actually be really bad. I even screenshot it, and I turned it away. I turned it away when I needed thousands of dollars for an operation. And I even said that in doing so, these apps actually suppress other people. And all of you guys have been tagging Susan Lambert in my comments, and I've said, well, you know, I think she's funny, but like I actually want to offer like analysis and expertise, but of course she's going to be the one that gets to go to DC. When you tag Aaron Parnas and all of them in my dark money thing, which I am the only fuck person in the entire country putting blood, sweat, and tears into this project.
No, you're not.
Of course those fuckers didn't answer, because they know if I research long enough, I'm going to find them in it, and I fucking did. Like most Americans, the ones that I'm actually fighting for, I cannot afford all of my medical bills. I considered selling my car to be able to continue to do TikToks because I'm getting this close, and I'm finally going to fucking make a difference. But I'm not going to, because I know that they're not smart. They're not even trying to hide the fact that they're capitalist, self-serving fucking $8,000 a month on top of creator rewards.
So, lefty influencers are being paid massive amounts of money by dark money groups like Arabella Advisors and Aaron Perunas and all these other guys to propagate a narrative. Social engineering at its finest. Here's the kicker. Republicans are doing it too. There's many inside of the MAGA movements and the truth movements and the Republican and conservative movements that want to control the narrative because there's going to be a time after Donald Trump. And this is what they're all setting their hitches on. They're waiting for the moment after Donald Trump, and they're setting the narrative to hijack the Republican Party, the new MAGA party, after the exit of Donald Trump. This is what they want. So what do they need to do? They need to establish rapport, trust. They need to establish authority. And so they go out there and they pay off massive amounts of influencers, thousands upon thousands of dollars to propagate their narratives. And at first, those narratives align with exactly the moral and ethical values that most people agree with. But then they begin to turn, specifically at various different points in times of flex within the Trump administration. We just saw a kind of dry run-through of this the last few months. Iran was a good one. Oh my God, he's going to start World War III. And you have all of these conservative influencers turning on Donald Trump. Just immediately. You just had it a few weeks ago, Epstein files, turning on Donald Trump. Almost immediately. Why? Because that is the memos that they are getting from the people who pay them. And in the future, you're going to see a lot more of it. It's going to be rampant. It's not just the left, it is the right as well. RFK Jr. has launched a full investigation into the meds that the trans Minneapolis shooter was using. There's never been a time in America where people walk into a crowd or a church or a movie theater or a school and just randomly shoot. Something changed and dramatically changed human behavior. The public deserves to know. I guarantee there are many similarities in the meds each of these mass shooters were on. It's been covered up until now. I'm happy with this one. The FDA has linked the puberty blockers to depression and suicide. Internal FDA correspondence reportedly shows officials knew puberty blockers carried increased risk of depression and suicidality, as well as increased seizure risk in pediatric patients. In a 2022 email from senior clinical team leader also confirmed that some transgender children were using the drugs off-label despite these risks. Now, whenever you start to tie in emotions and you start messing with people's emotions, you're going to find that you're going to have aggregation, depression. You're going to have violent outbursts. But also, it brings people to a heightened level of vulnerability. Makes them easier to manipulate, to control, to social engineer, to MK Ultra. So Russia has launched a full-scale assault on Kyiv. One of the places that Russia hit was the British consul in Kyiv. A Russian missile slammed into the central Kyiv today, seriously damaging the British consul building and forcing its closure. Was that a warning from Russia to Britain to stop giving Ukraine money and weapons? Because every time that Ukraine hits Russia, that's where it's coming from directly. Now, this is interesting. It could potentially disrupt things that are happening between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, but we'll see where it goes. And it's almost now that Russia is being controlled as a proxy through India. I don't believe that for 1 minute, but we'll see where this escalates to. Just wanted to bring that up because on the context of the global scale, that's really all the news that we had. Now, if you notice today that the gun control situation is all rising back up to the scene, you have Mayor Frey in Minneapolis coming about saying that we have these assault rifles that can reel up off 30 clips in conjunction with a magazine. No. But now they're calling for an assault weapon ban. What are they so afraid of? Maryland Governor Wes Moore has caved to President Trump amidst that he would welcome federal support to clean up Baltimore. So we have various different mayors that are actually aligning with Donald Trump. Remember, we had Gretchen Whitmer just a few months ago at the White House hiding her face in the backdrop. Why? Because these people are acquiescent to Donald Trump's power and control and authority. Because Donald Trump has the dirt on all of them. He's probably showed them their files and said, you're going to go down or you're going to go down in your own way. If you can either comply and acquiesce or you can resist and go to jail. And I think a lot of these people know what's coming, so they're just going to play the game. This is interesting because I want to bring attention to this. So once again, Newark, New Jersey, a ground stop on Thursday morning at Newark Liberty International Airport had a ripple effect throughout the day, just as the Labor Day weekend travel rush got into full gear. The problem started when the FAA issued a temporary ground stop for arriving flights because of air traffic control communication issues. What happened? All radio frequencies just went dead. That's not normal. All radio frequencies just went dead. At the same time, you have Pete Hegseth over at the DOD saying this.
Our job here at the Pentagon, when you think about it, is to prepare for the threats of the future and build a force to match them and defeat them and outpace them. And there's no doubt that the threats we face today from hostile drones grow by the day. Emerging technologies, we see it in battlefields in far-flung places, and we see it on our own border. In small unmanned aerial systems, UAS, can serve to target and bring harm on our warfighters, our people, our bases, and frankly, the sovereignty of our national airspace. And that's why today I'm directing the Secretary of the Army to formally establish the Joint Interagency Task Force 401, or JIATF 401. It's a new unified team that's going to bring together our best talent from all our agencies to counter these threats and restore control of our skies.
Interesting. This comes a week after a U.S. Air Force general is talking about, this is that commander of NATO talking about, we don't know what these things are flying over our Air Force bases and we can't do anything about them. This is when we have the reemergence of the New Jersey drone story all over again. Now, what's really going on? I think that somebody on this planet has some advanced technologies and they're posturing. I actually know it. Is that going to play out in the role of what happens over the course of the next few months? Potentially. We'll see, though. Give a shout out to Evie Gurney, $20 super chat with a thumbs up. Thank you so much, Evie. I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Thanks for all the support. So we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but now it's making a lot more sense. Chief Medical Officer Deborah Horry has resigned from her position at the CDC. Yesterday, the director of the CDC's National Center for Immunizations and Respiratory Diseases, Dmitry Daskalaskis, I think a known Satanist, resigned. That came a day after CDC Director Susan Moranes had been fired. Now, Susan Moranes was fired on the same day that Bill Gates was at the White House. The same day that Bill Gates started defunding Arabella Advisors, which was then mentioned in Dark Money Connections, sponsoring violence and so forth. By the way, then yesterday, the FDA commissioner on vaccines says they have removed the emergency use authorization of COVID vaccines. Now, that's interesting because the emergency use authorization is the only reason why the mRNA vaccines could be actually prescribed and used. I'm curious what happens to those mRNA ones now that emergency use authorization is now removed. But think about this. In the past 24 hours, Bill Gates meets with Trump at the White House for 3 hours. The FDA revokes the emergency use authorization of mRNA shots. FDA authorizes mRNA shots for at-risk 6 months old, the majority of the population. CDC Director Moranes is fired after revealing her vaccine cabal collaborators. 4 other top CDC officials resign. There's now a window of opportunity to take necessary measures to fill CDC leadership with individuals that are not trapped under max vaccine psychosis. In other words, Bill Gates had infiltrated the CDC with his own people, and they were just systematically taken out over the course of the last 2 days, right after he left the meeting with Donald Trump. That's progress, people. Oh, this story's cool. So if you've been following the 3I Atlas comet, Avi Loeb, Harvard University, has came out and said that this thing does not appear to be a comet. Many scientists are coming out there going, you don't know what you're talking about. Dude's a Harvard astronomer, runs the damn program over there. But we find out today, Avi Loeb has posted a new paper on this, that the interstellar object was caught emitting a mysterious metal that suggests technological origin. The interstellar object speeding through our solar system has been spotted spewing a metal unlike anything seen in natural comets. The VLT, Very Large Telescope in Chile, detected an unusual nickel plum from the object known as 3I Atlas. Unlike natural comets, which always emit nickel alongside iron, 3I Atlas shows a metallic element without any detectable iron. Harvard physicist Avi Loeb highlighted the anomaly described in the new study, noting that this nickel signature is a hallmark of industrial production of nickel alloys. Is this anomaly another clue for the possible technological origin of 3I Atlas? Loeb has suggested this. The paper suggests that chemical formation occurs through nickel carboline channel, an extremely rare process in comets, but a standard technique in industrial nickel refining. The new study, published in Astrophysicists in Chile on Wednesday, found that 3I Atlas is shedding nickel at roughly 5 grams per second and cyanide at 20 grams per second, with both rising sharply as the object moves closer to the sun. Researchers noted that the mechanisms driving these emissions are not typical of natural cometary processes. They hypothesized that nickel might be released from dust through gentle processes such as sunlight, causing it to evaporate or break down small nickel-containing compounds. Traditional comets also are typically water-rich and release gases such as water, carbon monoxide, and carbon dioxide as they approach the sun. This one is not. It also seems to emit light internally, outwardly. So this is interesting. I hope they send a spacecraft to go check this damn thing out. That's my thoughts. That's kind of all I have. Oh, man, that's a whole hour right there. All right, guys. No Q&A tonight. I already had a Q&A today with something else that I was doing. No Q&A tonight. We're going to do it tomorrow night. I'm trying to do a conversation on the fringe, but it'll probably be a daily dose because we don't have a guest lined up. Working on a guest. If I get one, we'll do a fringe, but if not, we're going to do a daily dose because I'm pretty sure there's going to be some news breaking tomorrow. So pay attention for that on the schedule. And then tomorrow night, we will do the live Q&A as scheduled for tonight. So tomorrow night, that will be. Other than that, guys, I hope you guys have a great night. Share, subscribe. Make sure you're giving those thumbs up. Love you guys. Support redpills.tv. Don't forget our Substack. I got a bunch. I got like 3 or 4 articles coming out. Sorry. It's been a crazy day. But much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. Talk to you.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!